to our workshop OnDaChain, OffDaChain. But we're not very gangster, so it's going to be like a really pragmatic kind of approach to looking at dApps. We're going to play with some dApps. We've chosen some ones, but you guys can choose some as well yourselves. And we're going to be looking at it from two lenses. One is from UX, so if you haven't really used kind of UX practices before, you know, it's a chance to kind of unpack that a little bit, but also from a tech perspective. So for the data that's actually on the chain or off the chain, we're also going to see, you know, how can we actually find out where that data is stored. Just a show of hands in the room, who comes from a UX background? All right, cool. And who comes, like, who's a techie, computer sciencey, developer, nerd? Oh, kind of, yeah. Okay, cool. So we've got a few of those. Who isn't either of those things? What are you guys?
I do biz dev at MakerDAO.
Okay, cool. So marketing, business development, does that capture? All right, cool. I think we've got a good selection. That's going to work well. Mix. Yeah, awesome. So I'll introduce us. First, we've got Nas over here. So Nas, just like the rapper. And then Gendry, that's my name. So anyone seen Game of Thrones? And there's this character called Gendry. Anyway, I was first. So that's us. And a bit about us. So we both come from. Oh, take a seat. Come up the front if you want. No probs. We both come from a computer science background, and were kind of back-end developers early on in our career. But over time, we kind of moved into UX and product and digital delivery practices. And we've been building dApps for a while together now. And I guess there's two things that we really noticed in building dApps. First is that, cool. The first thing we kind of noticed about actually building dApps is that we were doing it really different to everybody else. A lot of people were really building dApps from kind of back end or infrastructure up, and then really focusing on the kind of front end and the user kind of last in the piece. So we thought that was weird, but everyone thought we were strange. Yeah. And then the other thing we noticed was it was really, really hard to build dApps. You know, so between like learning kind of the new technologies, you know, figuring out how to deploy things on, you know, testnet and getting, you know, faucets with cryptocurrency and all of these different kind of things, and dealing with new UI patterns and ways to kind of explain to users what was going on. We just felt like, you know, there were a lot of really hard parts and a lot of barriers to people even developing apps. And so that's why we came up with, you know, the project we're working on called FlightPlan. And so what we're trying to create is a blockchain design suite. So a platform that makes it easier to create dApps. And this is a picture of what it looks like in the Node 4 space. Tomorrow we're going to show it off so you can come and have a look at that. But we really believe that there's a big difference between dApps and kind of design-led blockchain solutions. We want to really empower people to be able to do that. Another thing that's a big part of what we do at FlightPlan is design community. So we run blockchain experience design meetups and community in Australia, and we really focus on building expertise and new tools in this space, especially where Web 3 is really different to Web 2. And then we've got a whole bunch of use cases that are doing proof of concepts and prototyping on our platform at the moment. What's really exciting about coming to this conference is that we get to speak to people about, you know, where their projects are at. We're really looking for technologies that we can actually integrate our platform to and help people, bring more people in to this whole kind of Web3 tech space that maybe don't know how to code and really focus on the kind of design aspects of how, and utility of how we use this technology. I want to put a shout out to the DFF. So this is the DFF DAO. So in Australia, this is a DAO that really provides grants to a lot of people to come to conferences like this. So it wouldn't be possible to come here, you know, without people like that. So that's their site and their Twitter handle there. And some of the people in the Sydney community that are a part of it. Okay, so once upon a time, how did this all start? So with this workshop today, I guess it all started, come on in, grab a seat if you want. The funny squeaky like ghost door. Yeah. So the idea for this workshop started a while ago. I was using a dApp. It was a dApp one of my friends was making around the digital ID space, and I was testing it and was asking for my name, my date of birth, and my mobile number. And I was using this dApp and it was just running on testnet. But because I've built dApps before and I understand the implications of what it means to put kind of clear text fields onto the chain, even testnet, I started thinking, I don't really feel comfortable with that kind of personal data of mine being on the chain, potentially forever, and me not having the ability to be able to change that in the future. And I started thinking about, well, okay, so what's the difference? I know that that's happening, but I only know because I know how the underlying kind of back-end tech works. But what about users that don't know the difference, right? Is it right for us, to be kind of grabbing that data and putting it on the chain? And so that was the kind of first time I started thinking about my data in a different way and how we think about data on blockchain in a different way. And then, I guess, at this conference, there's been probably a lot more talk around data and privacy and concerns. And has everyone seen this one before? I remember a time when we used to love Facebook and, Mark Zuckerberg. But, now we've got these memes, and this is even, starting to appear in like graffiti, right? Which is, the more of your data I gather, the more I understand what it means to be human. So it really kind of brings up this question about, who can we really trust with our data? And I think that it's not just about, these big organizations anymore. We've got a responsibility in the Web3 space.
Cool. So related to this topic is, of course, GDPR, right? I'm sure you guys have heard it being mentioned quite a few times. With this, the EU data protection regulation coming into effect this year, what we've observed is an increase in awareness and scrutiny by users around how their data is being used. There was this tweet by the EU Commission that included this interesting illustration about we being very attached to our personal data. And if you look at the illustration, I think it's quite smart. There are two meanings behind it. You see the people actually being tethered to the cloud and having their data sort of stored in the cloud while using their devices. So there are two elements to it. People being very emotionally sort of attached to how they view their personal data, and the reality of it that increasingly, data is being stored somewhere off your devices, and people are very dependent on this. And of course, another interesting aspect of the whole episode was what happened during the time when everyone's inbox got flooded by the emails from the companies that were wanting to comply with GDPR. Like I remember that week, and it was interesting, right? So the aspect of communicating, how does the user feel when they're being communicated to about this? I remember feeling super confused because I heard that it's a good thing, but all the emails that I received were all in very weirdly worded legal speak, which I didn't understand. So it made me wary and made me wonder, is it something that's happening for the good or for the bad? There was just in general confusion. So so naturally as users, a whole bunch of increasingly we have a whole bunch of questions that come to mind, right? Around how the information is stored, what is it being used for? Ultimately, I think everyone is concerned. How am I in control of my data?
Okay, so we have a really weird relationship with data. I guess on one hand, we might love it. So it allows us to kind of navigate complexity, get insights, and sometimes it's really helpful in predicting products that we might like or choosing our next favorite song that we might not have thought of. But at the same time, we've got this relationship where we kind of hate it as well. You know, we hate the fact that people, you know, we feel kind of exploited, or people have really taken advantage, or maybe know more about us than we might know ourselves. So in the backdrop of all of this, the real challenge for us is, you know, how can we make Web3 experiences with data transparent and trusted? How can we really surface some of those values that we really care about and put that into the experience so that people feel as though we're doing the right thing with their data. So this is obviously a super big topic. What we kind of tend to do is, all right, you know, acknowledge the big topic, but focus on a small part of it. So the small kind of focus area that we really want to tap into and unpack today is, where is my data stored in the context of some dApps or some real kind of applications of blockchain today. And when we think about, you know, what's on the chain versus off the chain, these are some of the kind of ideas, but there's probably you know, more than just this. So when we're thinking on the chain, that could be public blockchain. Yeah, so it could be that we're storing data fields kind of, you know, clear on a public blockchain like Ethereum, so everybody can see it. It could be that we actually have data that's hashed on the chain, so maybe there's a part of it that's off the chain, but you know, the actual hash is on a public blockchain. That could be another approach. Or it could be on a permissioned blockchain. Yeah. So that's kind of what we're talking about when we talk about on the chain. And then in terms of off the chain, I mean, these are just a few options, but it could be in the cloud. It could be on a centralized server or within, you know, kind of the boundaries of a enterprise, or it could be kind of local storage. And, you know, I feel like over the past day we've been, you know, hearing a bit more about, you know, people wanting to store a lot of their sensitive information a bit more locally, whether it's on their phone or their own kind of personal hardware devices. And each of these different options come with different kind of characteristics and aspects. So on the chain, you know, that's going to inherit the blockchain features like immutability, you know, or permanence. And then that brings up a whole set of questions around, well, I guess if it's on public blockchain, who can see my data and for how long? What does my transaction history reveal about me? You know, how much could it be actually tied to my identity? And can I revoke my access later? With probably the answer a lot of the time to that being no. You know, there's not much we can do maybe to change that. Versus off the chain, where we need to trust someone to actually manage our information safely. And then a whole set of questions kind of comes from that, which is, what are they doing with my data? Who are they selling it to? What do they know about me? And also, how can I see what they have and what data about me that they're holding? So these are the kind of considerations when we're thinking about on or off the chain. But it's a lot more easy when we just show it through a dApp. So what we're going to do is, Naz and I are going to do a bit of a role play. So I'm going to play the role of the UX researcher, and Naz is going to play the role of the user. Yes. And we're gonna take you through a dApp, and this is taking you through a bit of what you guys are going to do in groups first, just so you get a bit of an idea. So as a UX researcher, I'm going to use a handy worksheet, and I might just get my pencils from out of here. Yeah, I'll get that later. So we're going to use this handy worksheet, and as a UX researcher, I'm going to interview Naz, and we're going to find out a bit about what he's thinking when he's using the app. But first we're going to start with a bit about him. So this is this kind of top line here. Alright, so I know your name is Naz.
Yes, not the rapper.
Huh? Not the rapper?
Not the rapper.
But a bit like the rapper.
A bit like the rapper.
Okay, so Naz, maybe start with telling me a bit about, have you used crypto before?
Yes, so I'm familiar with cryptocurrencies. I know what a wallet is. I've done cryptocurrency transactions. So yes, I'm familiar with crypto.
All right, cool. And have you heard of what a DApp is?
Yes, decentralized app. In fact, I've created a few dApps together with you. And at the same time, so I've used many dApps. So yes, I'm familiar with dApps.
Cool. So I'm going to put in here that Nas is very familiar with dApps and crypto. Okay, so tell me about the DApp that you've chosen today, and what are you trying to achieve in actually using that DApp?
Okay, so the DApp that I've chosen today is the Civic Digital ID app, the one on the mobile phone, and I'm interested just because I wanted to see how implementation of digital ID works on the mobile phone.
Cool.
Yep.
So as a UX researcher, I'm kind of writing this stuff down as we go. The whole idea is to be quite succinct. That's why we kind of stick to one pages all the time, but we could write a whole bunch of information on it. All right, so the next thing I want you to do is we're going to connect your phone and we're going to get you to use that DApp.
Okay.
And along the way, if you can, it'd be great for you to just kind of share your thoughts with us and tell us, what you're thinking when you're looking at some of the screens, and whether or not you want to click the buttons and traverse through. Is that mirroring?
Still loading.
Too many mobile phones.
Ah, is that what it is? Don't all mirror your screens to us at once.
Yeah, there was a demo in here the other day where they had to use a mobile hotspot because there's just no bandwidth on the Wi-Fi when everyone's huddled up together.
I could do that.
Maybe more peer-to-peer mesh network.
Yeah, there were the guys up trying to do it.
Do you have
Really?
Riffs.
They
have people doing.
There's no range, no carrier
Yeah,
here.
it's on my,
Yeah, but you're connected to, there are other devices who could give you range, and most of the apps you're using accessing the same servers like Twitter and downloading the same content. Like they're all.
Yeah.
So,
I think that's Wi-Fi and phone
can we use someone's personal hotspot?
problem.
So can you connect it with a cable?
Or maybe what if I created a hotspot? I could try.
Oh yeah, no, I'm connected now.
Yeah.
Should I just try mirroring again?
Yep.
I don't know what I'm trying. Maybe gonna use.
It needs to be on the same network.
Yeah.
Yep.
Gonna grab the. We'll just connect to the hotspot and then we'll hopefully keep going. Who's done user testing before? Yeah. So we were going to do screenshots, but we think it's better to actually see how people are scrolling up and down and the real feel of it. Did anyone want to seat up there? There's a few seats around.
Sorry, I missed the first bit. What have you done so far?
Kind of talked about a bit of the introduction to the topic around data and why we've kind of been looking at this space around on-chain versus off-chain data.
Mm.
And now we're about to go into a demo where we actually kind of show what does the experience look like
Okay.
in terms of a dApp called Civic. Who's heard of Civic before? Yeah. Have people used it before? Yeah. Cool. So we get to so there's one. Yeah, it's just one person that's used it. You've used it.
I used it to verify that I was 21 to get a beer at the consensus happy hour.
It's kind of like a forced use of it. Yeah.
It's pretty great. Yeah, we all put our minds together. We can do great things.
User acquisition 101. Run a hackathon.
It was not in Europe, I think.
No, New York.
Yeah.
There we go.
The problem is that nobody uses that in general.
Yeah.
Not even us. So.
Yeah, right. So we have to really, use these kind of workshops to make an effort to use them. I think that a lot of the time you use them because kind of curious on how it works more than like it solves a big problem in your life.
Yeah.
It's silly.
That way?
Doesn't sound like company.
No, it's not a company. It's like lifestyle.
Isn't Civic though like a
No, that's another one.
journalism?
Yeah, do that.
Civil.
Oh,
That's
Civil.
Where do you want to send them?
Ah, I see.
That's also from consensus.
We should have had it.
This is secure.
All right, we can't get the hotspot to work. Yeah. All right.
Maybe
Kind
you
of
can use
sucks.
the camera on the PC to record the screen on the.
Does no one
Yeah, we'll
have
do
like
some
a
screenshots.
Thing by
Yeah?
probably from
Does no one have like
All
a
right.
hotspot?
Alright,
Maybe you
where
can.
are you sending them?
Yeah,
Slack? Alright. Alright, we're going to do some screenshots and we'll send that through.
Is this one?
Yes, that is the Civic app.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's one.
Okay.
Alright.
Secure identity.
Hey, while we're waiting, guys. So this is
Go for it, Liam.
here we go. Alright, so this is a bit off topic, but who wants to buy some beer in crypto tonight?
Buy beers or drink beers? There's a difference.
You can drink beers with crypto.
Can you
Like,
edit?
Okay.
get some Bitcoin bitters. No.
So yeah,
What are you proposing?
I'm proposing that I think it's silly that we're at a conference and we can't pay for anything in crypto, and they're like all these like the bar's taking so long, and we're just gonna go up the road to the servo, buy a bunch of beers, come back here and go, hey, look, you can pay us in whatever crypto you have, for the price of the beer.
Okay.
Yeah. Who wants one beer?
So you just testing your idea to make profit off of everyone tonight?
Huh?
Just sounding whether you
Well,
make money off people.
I don't know. I just wanted to see like what cryptos we're all holding, and honestly, I don't have to get the exchange fee anymore because you're just giving me it for beer.
Yeah.
And plus, it's a good way of meeting people.
Just one Bitcoin per beer, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
not that busy.
The true believers would probably have crypto, right? So if they buy a beer off
No,
you,
wait, did you get the memo? The true believer will tell you that if you spend your Bitcoin, then it's a scam.
I have a lot of words and them.
We don't want to set
like
a
some,
record for the most expensive beer in history. So.
Stella.
Do you accept BitConnect?
Like 2 years ago, I paid like one whole Bitcoin for the dinner.
Yeah, about
Alright.
something.
Almost
We're
ready.
trying to
We're
regret.
accepting
Alright.
Ripple, Stella,
no one has a
BitConnect.
stablecoin then, obviously.
So despite Wi-Fi issues, we're back on. We've got some screenshots now.
It's gonna be a
Alright.
happy hour at DevCon.
So Naz,
Yes.
you're gonna take us through the experience of using Civic.
Okay.
Yeah?
So I've downloaded the app and I just loaded the app on my mobile phone. Guys can see it on screen. I see that there's some introduction. Okay, Civic gives me an easy access to online services. Okay, sounds promising. Like it. I'll click on next.
So next is this screen here.
Open the field, huh?
Yep. Okay, good. In control of my Civic ID. Sounds good. I like it. And I get to approve what I share. That's important. Yep. Next. Okay. Let's see. Locking, yes. keep me safe from hackers. Your personal data is on your device, not on central servers. Okay, now I'm a bit confused because I'm not sure if it's on my device. How do you verify my ID and what does it mean? So I'm just feeling a bit confused and cautious just because I'm not clear what is going to happen.
So what are you going to do next?
Do you think anybody knows what centralized server is, or the centralized server? Just the word centralized server, I think.
Yep. So it's all part of the confusion, right? Like it's just a row of words and I can't really understand what's going on. So I'll create a new passcode.
No, wait. You haven't read the terms and conditions.
You see, that
happens all the time.
But it's the same.
And the privacy
But it's the
policy,
same, so it's like, you know.
You need to open it.
Yeah.
No, open it.
Yeah.
Read.
Yeah.
For our.
Thank you for bearing with
If
us.
you press on it, if you press on terms and conditions, does it give you an option to save it or
to understand
to send you to the email or something?
Yeah, it's
or to share it? No, that's so bad.
Alright. The following screenshots.
Yep.
Cool. Alright, next screen. So you clicked on that. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So I've gone in and create my passcode. I'm not gonna let you guys know what my passcode is. And again, re-enter the passcode. Next screen I see is this. Do you have one of these? No, I don't think so. In fact, I'm quite confused. What is this? And why are you asking me to scan it? So no, I'm going to click on no code to scan, I guess. Yep. Okay, I see the screen. There's option to slide to scan the code, which I don't think I'll do because I have no idea what the code is. There's a few FAQ, contact support, not interested in that. I guess what I want to do is to set up my civic ID. So I'll go in and click on set up a civic ID. Okay, go. Okay. So I'm faced with these two fields: add primary email and mobile number. I think I'm comfortable adding my email address, just because I'm used to creating accounts in other apps using my email. But if I'm going to add my mobile number, I'm not too sure. You know, like because I'm not sure where it's going to go or how they're going to use it, like to verify my identity. So at this point, yeah, I'm not sure how to proceed. Maybe I'll click on the settings button, and that might give me more insight into what I should do. Okay. Okay, I've gone in. I clicked on settings button, and I see automatic login. Permission don't prompt. No, I'm definitely going to switch it off, because I don't want any automatic use of my ID, even for previously authorized apps. And backup enabled. Now I'm curious. There's an option to back up my ID to iCloud. So that means that it's probably going to start somewhere in some server, in Apple server. But I'm going to switch that off as well, probably. So yeah, I guess that's it. Like,
yeah, cool.
Yep.
So that gives us a bit of an idea of like, that's kind of typically how we run a bit of research on, you know, how people are actually using that. So to give you a bit of an idea about how you actually fill out these sheets, we're going to put in the steps of the journey. So Nas really went through how it works you know, so those kind of, you know, that information at the start, you know, when he was kind of onboarding there. He created the passcode, he got to that setup ID screen, and then he looked at the settings. And what we do here in terms of the experience is up the top we've got kind of the happy face. These are the moments when he was like, yes, I think that's cool. So at the start, you know, he felt like, yep, cool, that makes sense. Some of that information really made sense. But he started to get a bit more cautious, you know, so there's a bit of information about how his daughter was going to be stored, but didn't really feel like he had enough, I guess, towards the end. And, you know, looking at the settings, you know, it was pretty obvious to me, like kind of listening to you, that, you know, he really wants to be in control of his ID and information, yeah, and maybe didn't necessarily want them in the cloud or not. So that's kind of the role of the, you know, the person in your little group that's going to do the UX researcher and then the user. Okay, and now I want you to change hats, Nas, okay. Yeah? And I want you to change from being the user and now being the techie.
Okay,
yeah?
So I guess my role now is to sort of figure out what or how the fields that was being prompted to the user, that was also me earlier, how are the fields sort of stored, you know.
On the chain or off the chain?
On the chain or off the chain. So my probably first port of call, and again I'm just going to compress this process just because it's just an example. So I'll probably go to the Civic website and I'll scroll through just to find whether there are any details about any smart contracts, which chain they're on, you know. And if I scroll through the site, I don't find any information. I'll probably hit the FAQ.
And the Wi-Fi probably doesn't work. Yeah, there's that.
Yep.
Which one are you connected to?
Maybe I'll disconnect.
Maybe get the
You have to go to Web3
yeah.
Summit, and it's more truth.
Yeah, I've connected to it before. Yeah.
It's been pretty short at the conference.
It's cool because all of us lovely people are in here using it. Yeah.
Yes, okay, so now I have an FAQ, and I found a few contract addresses in FAQs, hidden in FAQs, for a few other dApps, so I'll scroll through the FAQs, and there's no information about smart contracts or where exactly is the data stored. So again, just a guess, I heard that Civic might be on Ethereum, so maybe I'll go to the Ethereum block explorer, and I might just key in Civic, you know, and I'll click on the first thing that appears, which is okay, Civic token, but this looks suspiciously like a token sale contract. Anyway, I'll just go in, I'll view the code, and I see that, hey, you know, it is a ERC20. Looks like it's a ERC20 contract, you know, and the interfaces don't really show any signs of any storing of email names or even contact numbers, no personal data. So I have nothing to go on, and again, since this is a mobile app, I'm not really inspecting the front end, but if it's on the web, then I'll probably go in, look at the JavaScript, you know, see what libraries they use and what functions they call, and then have a sense of where the information is being routed to. Yep. So I guess what can I the only thing I can conclude is that well, the information is stored on the mobile. I guess I have to trust what is written on the app, which is stored on the device. And again, based on my feedback, you know, I feel that email address is probably less confidential, but my mobile address, yeah, I find it much more confidential. Yep.
Cool. So in terms of on the chain versus off the chain, we're probably not kind of conclusive. There's something on the chain, but we haven't quite seen it. So that's the kind of activity that we want you guys to have a go. And in terms of you guys getting set up, the first thing we'll do is we'll get people to work in groups of 3. So there's those 3 roles. So we'll have one person who's the user, and if there are people that don't know much about crypto or haven't really used a dApp before, that's the perfect person to be the user, because you can have that kind of fresh set of eyes and show people what it's like to not really know, what's going on. People that want to kind of play the role of the UX researcher, so whether you've done it before or you want to give that a go, and then the same one person for the techie. So I'm going to give you guys 5 minutes to just kind of organise into groups of 3, and if you need to move the furniture around, go for it. So organise into groups of 3, and then figure out who's going to be the user, who's going to be the UX researcher.
Too much.
No, you have to be in. That's part of
You guys going to all be together? Yeah.
Too much.
No, you can do that. Who wants to be the user?
Yeah, one for group.
UX researcher.
Guys.
Alright, you wants to be the user.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm in.
You'll be the techie. Yeah.
Alright, you're in that group?
Awesome.
No.
Yes,
Okay.
Join with them.
Whatever you like.
Yeah, sorry.
I'll do the technique.
Yeah, sure. So I missed a little bit.
You can use other apps. Yeah, I'm going to go through some apps in a sec. I've got pencils. Don't stress. Pencils with erasers on them for you guys if you want. We're gonna go through the next instructions.
Hey, Gendry, Matt is the person we work with, UXer that missed the start.
I missed the very beginning.
Oh, okay, cool. I'll come around and take you guys through.
That'd be amazing.
You can be the user.
Alright. Sorry?
Yeah, I can
be the user.
I can be the user.
You can be the user?
And I'm
Alright, cool.
apps too, so it's great.
Okay, perfect. And then if anyone else wants pencils. Alright, cool. Alright, I'll take you through the instructions.
So that I need some more space and talk to each other.
Matt. Neil.
Alright, so next up, can I just grab everyone's attention for a sec? Come on in if you want. So next up, so we've put a few dApps here that we know are kind of, we've tested those out, we know how they work. So if you want to use some, if you've got a laptop, Fizzy or Can work, they work on laptop only, but if you've got a mobile device, Indoors or Travel Stack, work on those. But you can pick any dApp you want. So if you just take the...
Go to the login process.
Sorry? So just as a group, just figure out which dApp you're going to actually use and what the goal is. And then we'll get to the next step where we talk about actually using the dApp. Yeah, so just as a team, figure out...
The user needs to choose...
Yeah, if in doubt, the user can choose the dApp.
I just downloaded this Bones app. You can take a look at it.
Do you guys know either one of those desktop apps?
So it needs to be one of these.
No, it doesn't have to be. You can choose any dApp you want, but if you can't think of a dApp, then you can use one of these ones here.
And the techie, the UX researcher is going to do the questions, so what does the tech do?
Yeah,
Try to solve the
Should I use it on my device?
Just to give you a bit of an idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright, here we go.
Smart insurance, automatic.
You've chosen one?
You'll need minimum.
There you go, you got Fizzy. Have you guys chosen a dApp that you're going to... Huh? Unzipped? Oh yeah, cool.
Check Canwork.
Awesome. Have you guys chosen a dApp?
I think we'll do Canwork.
You do Canwork? Awesome. Alright, so before you get... I know you want to get stuck into it, but before you do, the people that are in the different roles. So the person who's the user, okay, what I want you to do, so you're the user, for example, yeah? I want you to think out loud. So as you're going through the dApp, don't feel like there are any dumb things to say, you know, or anything that, I wish I had known. I want you guys to like really tell people what's going on in your mind and what you're thinking. Right down to like, you know, it could be like, I'm using mobile because, or I'm using, you know, I'm going to click this button, or I don't feel comfortable clicking this button because. They're the kinds of things we want you to say. In terms of the UX researcher, what I want you guys to do is ask open-ended questions. So don't lead the witness. You know, you might know the answer or might know how to use that dApp, but really want to be like quite curious and inquisitive, and get people to get that user to really unpack what's going on. And then in terms of the techie, I want you guys to be watching what's going on, what fields are people asking for, what's written in the copy, and whether it's giving you hints or clues about where the data might be stored, because then you guys are actually going to go and have a look behind the scenes, maybe in development tools or on different blockchain explorers to find out where the data is stored.
Alright, cool. So who wants
to roll? Alright, so the challenge is, before we get started,
so I'm used to doing
interview your user. I'm going to give you the paper, the worksheets. I'll give them to you now. What I want you to do is start with the... Alright, so you guys... Oh, everyone's got one. Yeah. Cool. Wow. Okay. So what I want you to do is start with this top section here before you get them to actually use the dApp. So find out what's their familiarity with crypto and dApps. Yeah. Find out a bit about that, and find out what's their kind of expectations or goals of using that dApp. Yeah. So once you've done that, then you can go into actually doing playing with the dApp. And actually start to articulate the steps. And Naz and I will come around and ask you guys some questions and see how you're going. Any questions for us before you get started?
In the middle and I sit there so I can see what you're doing as well.
All right.
Too decentralized.
Rock and roll.
How do you feel about this?
First of all, it's like MetaMask is already installed, right? Yeah. Am I supposed to have MetaMask?
What do you do?
No, just, I mean, like, do you want me to use those websites? That's also no MetaMask.
Let's say you already have MetaMask. Does this look like a dApp?
Yeah, it doesn't bother me. It looks like, but the obvious question is that it also looks like a lot of other things, like lens and everything else. When you make it look so much like not a dApp, then you are going to the territory of like, compare with like lens or like OFDL.
Yeah. So, this is a question for me actually. How often do you find that? Do you ever find that you're put off more?
Think about what you're
noticing a website is down first off. Would you trust that app more?
Okay, I'll be more interested. Okay, I'm a user, but I'm an easy user. Yeah. Okay, how about that? I'm not techie, but I'm a user who is interested into figuring out things. Right? Like, I'm also interested in hiring people, right? You know? Yeah, but I'm actually I'll be more interested because I know users like some.
So for this example, let's assume like you are So where would you go?
So if you guys done the first part, it's like putting in his name, asking a bit about user UX researcher. Alright, you gotta have these in your hands.
Sophia.
Yes. Because what happens is you get carried away, right? And then you get to like get to ask a few of the kind of fundamentals. Yeah. Like your name.
So kind of technique, you have some theorem, you're used to buying
I mean, we are assuming this. So he's assuming that we're doing this.
Or perhaps he's got into a lot of
So you wouldn't even know why.
So you might be new, still figuring out the ecosystem, and have no theory. What's your experience? Do you use desktop or you're still just getting So your dApp familiar, getting able to install
I worried that I would
I use Creating Depth.
So we're talking now about what this is.
You're familiar with networks and like the networks with the apps.
Not very.
I don't know if it's
Because when they came out,
Yeah, this is like random.
Do you start using apps?
Me? Yeah, I do.
Like as a user?
Yeah, but I should never answer to
put in the flight number, put in the bunch date,
But I see. Do I have to write it there or not?
You're the techie, are you? Yeah, maybe you, because you're gonna have to, you're gonna need your laptop, right? You're gonna need to, maybe write it down and then grab it later. There are these things on here.
I missed a little bit of the beginning. What do you think?
You can use a laptop for laptop notes. Write down write down the fields. You're gonna need to do the detective on
keep my password, especially I make a lot of mistakes, so I think this is
insurance. Your flight is so delayed.
You have money. Find freelancers, and what's your objective today?
To hire
Okay. First of all, I'm not the UX researcher, so I want you to go through this.
So it's in the journey, I think. And just we're explaining starting.
I'm gonna make that as you guys go.
I think how was actually I'll just like scroll first. So I'll scroll out there, okay. Not the default from brands, prices and stuff. And I'll be like, occupation because I'll be like, wow. The first thing will be like, oh shit. Like how the world is. Yeah, it's a really bad technical thing. So my impression will be terrible. I guess.
Do you feel it's your bio specifically? Or is it that Fuse has too much?
I think that actually this destroys my opinion of can work, because like if you're a content strategist, award-winning content strategist and stuff, and you write shit like this and stuff, you can't even format your stuff properly. And I think and so can work featured such a bio doesn't make sense. So basically I'm judging it from the same perspective as I would judge any other website, right? You know? Then I'll be like,
I get my money right back.
Then I'll be like, okay, but if I look through it, I'm like, alright, I guess he done a lot of stuff before, so I'll be like, where did she, okay, what kind of content did she what's my channel? Yeah, Discovery Call.
You find this bio almost unusable or unreadable.
Yeah, there's no demo, there's no demo, there's no portfolios, I'm like, okay, I'll be interested in typing this thing, just try it out. Okay, then maybe I'll just...
Why do you think it's that?
I don't know. I don't trust people.
So why not?
So let's do this.
Do you not trust the user because of or do you not trust the Does it feel what?
Legit. Yeah, nothing here feels legit. The colors are legit, the design doesn't feel legit, the portfolio doesn't feel legit, the writing doesn't feel legit. Nothing too legit. I mean, the design here is not legit as well. I didn't say anything legit. No, nothing feels legit.
Wow, 6 euro and you get...
The only thing that feels legit is this one.
So, what content would feel legit? Is it just because there's too much, or because it's just not presented correctly and feel like it's not digested?
I mean, you look at I'm just saying, this is a pro. This is a professional. I heard it before, I think before stuff, just find some random.
I don't want to end on my data.
That's very true. It showed me something.
For a second. You want to, like, you like that, right? It's good.
Okay, I think this one.
So you like how you see their experience, very straight up forward instead of just like
and how much they want to pay. And I know about it's like non-service. You know, it is like that one was not a non-service. Yeah, so I mean, I guess the same criteria as a regular actually. Maybe the whole that thing was like there's nothing here feels like it's okay.
There's information about it.
Have you tried signing up for the
he doesn't trust it.
Well, I'm like, okay, well, anyway, whether we'll find out.
And also,
This is a big fail. This is a huge fail, by the way.
So yeah, you would think they could just put yeah, leave it there so don't
actually, honestly, it's another bad UI, right? Think about it. It's like, this is actually not
right, so this is
but this is actually not compulsory, but they make it red. Yeah, precisely. It's not compulsory and they make it red, and they don't even tell you what it's done. And no, what I did just now was quite a technical video. I go here and I did it. It's quite a technical. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, only you need it now to do that because you have the experience.
I'm probably now looking at some exchange with the audio from
oh, this is really bad. It's like, actually, it is actually awesome. It is actually awesome.
I mean, I have no idea how
oh yeah, oh another thing, or maybe there's some concern. Oh, it's not red. This is oh, is it?
You still don't know, but you still don't know anything about the bug.
Yeah, dude, this is really bad. This is really bad. Yeah, I know, you're right. Yeah, you're holy shit.
Like that, you have a better idea.
No, this happened. But yeah, they can't. No, this happened. They basically do it on the fly. Yeah, so.
You guys going?
Bun. Yeah. Which is an app I never heard about, so you should go to
Blue is only the focus.
Oh, guys,
Oh, not a tablet. Yeah, I don't think there's many things like a tablet.
Actually,
oh, what is it?
the fun thing is that they already know that if I change one variable, right, they just say embedded. It has to match, yeah.
But why do you
Yeah, no, so dumb. They already know though. You know, they already know. I mean, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen.
I would more willing to be ready to spend money now.
They already know. So weird.
Are you the techie?
I'm the techie, but I went for him to.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so you're thinking about how am I going to find?
He's spoiling everything.
He's spoiling it.
Yeah, I mean, I would be interested to point out.
They don't need to know my. I mean, they should need to know my identity. They never want to, check back if I really have.
Yeah, but I mean, is that the price or is that how many there are?
But that's my intuition.
Are they giving away free green cards? I don't think so, right?
That's the identity.
We are giving all the users a free
You can't choose your address either, so that's not bad. Yeah, I don't actually in Europe.
Why do I need to know what ICT is?
Oh, they're probably asking for like, you know, if you're looking for somebody locally or something like that, to find people around you. It might be good to know where you're located if you're looking for freelancers similar. But yeah, that's been
Instead of a film field, for your information.
The
profile will be great.
Why are they showing you
apart from asking how these fundamental models use it? I mean, just imagine that you don't know
how they know my bank account.
Hey,
They ask me.
so
we'll go ahead and so why? If I'm somebody looking to hire somebody, why do I need to fill out the headline? I'm actually hiring someone. I hired someone. Wow, why didn't you buy your phone?
Someone told me that he was in debt that
you barely go check
uses it even tries to hide it even from the user. I don't want to understand.
Maybe the function.
Why? I'm getting to know it's like a product. They need to be able to customize the profile. It's like pick a color. Oh yeah, back here. So you completed it. You just proceeded it and then came back here.
They come with the you want to buy beer, but in Canada you cannot buy beer if you don't show your driver's license.
Yeah, my height is and I think I don't understand that if I'm paying it, one should be it. So, one just should be it, you know? Yeah. I mean, I don't actually know what of course, it's because someone's or like, you wish they were showing anything, but they could still show. They can still show the dollar amount, but show me the yeah.
And the issue is, if you want to show people the address, so this balance.
This is your
well done.
But the future of rolling it up,
this is probably have which one you have.
We're being the user altogether.
Another thing is that, yes, I mean the VA session, right? I mean the VA session, check it out. These are not VAs. These are not VAs.
I think it's
virtual assistant.
where you, like
I'm supposed to be in the virtual assistant.
But you pay in BTC.
But you're not virtual assistant. No, check it out. I clicked on virtual assistant, right?
I think it is.
And you
needs to be validated.
No, but
we're trying it all together.
No, these are like senior
Okay, so
I'm assuming if you read the reviews, maybe we get an insight on what they are.
How you guys going? Alright, so let's go through the steps.
Great stuff.
So that's why I need pencils. That's what we do.
not the worst. No, it's really bad. So
way easier to do
No, I'm going to teach you output like the journey so far. So log in, you come to the site, it looks great, it's okay. You get to the search, you can find some stuff. Then as soon as you want to get into login, the login and data that you try and enter is it really descriptive? And it's if I'm going to look for somebody to hire for, it's asking me to create my profile, and that information isn't needed. Maybe they can ask me for my location if I'm looking for people around my area, but it doesn't ask me for that. And I already have a wall of files, and it's asking for my creative address, for instance.
How comfortable were you sharing it, and why were you comfortable or not comfortable?
Oh, I see. Maybe, I'm not sure. It might take trying to understand.
What do they mean? They don't say why. They just say, what's your location? What's your location for, so we can find people around.
Exactly, is there any clarity how exactly where does it live?
Well, they just say, what's your address? When they could pull my address from my wallet probably, because they already knew it, but they didn't really tell me where to look for it, or how they planned on using it.
They actually used it just to match that you committed properly.
Let's try to
what the fuck are they doing? Yeah, it's OffDaChain, or maybe it's not there. And then what are the sort of implications if you're saying that?
How you physics going?
How do you define OnDaChain? So if they ask my Ethereum,
oh yes, cool.
it's just
nothing like you get a contract on the phone.
Yes, but we're not sure where it goes.
Okay, sure.
I don't know what it was.
Basically, everything has happened.
So I think that
we're all
maybe like I don't know unless there's any clue.
How would you know? How would you explicitly know where they're storing? Like if they ask you, how would you know that they're on?
So yeah, the only way you can tell is from then someone with the skills can go in like what I did. I could try and what's happening, and sometimes I get information, but other times
So did you submit any
similar to
data?
what I've done.
Like did you ask for data?
The only way is for me to trust what they say.
Did you find it?
Let's try to do the water. Let's see if anything.
Correct.
So will be probably but I can't go on the website.
Come on, you gotta do the detective on it. Come on.
In the current form, it's where we function more like a
How do you feel about it? If you were to use a website like this as someone who's do you feel like it's necessary for this kind of apps to be very I feel like that's a necessity.
Yeah. Do you want to have a detective and find out?
As far as like why they're asking for the
once I was setting up some accounts,
I think it would be really interesting, like when we do the share back, maybe for you to talk about maybe document that, and maybe you say, this is how it's built.
it was of course Chinese
So maybe in those like which data fields and which, I guess because this is file storage as well.
when you hover over something that indicates
How you guys doing?
I would assume hovering over this means a link. Well, you might assume this is your weird hovering.
Yeah, but then
move this. I would assume this
they're trying to create an alternative.
like why is it under my right? Like why does it have to be separate from the price?
why are they adding the
Share back in 5 minutes, so just figure out, like, just really collect those insights.
It's a blockchain like
I don't know exactly why it went on to
Do a share back in about 5 minutes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, if you guys
Like why do they need to know? That's something you probably would do with transaction.
I guess that was useful.
Still, I would find a feeling like it's found when you're ready to pay. That's when you might ask for
Why do they need about 5 minutes? Is that enough, you guys?
So that's a great answer. Maybe that's why, but they didn't tell us.
So your data, where would that come from?
Some ideas creating the claim and some ideas getting a payout. They even need to know, don't need to know who that is. Why should they care?
Yeah, we're just, so it wasn't really a DApp. I mean, no, it is. So like
So basically it's a omnious user ID.
Yeah, so it was.
I think that transfers are OnDaChain, but the
I mean, I wouldn't sending any data on this.
Click here.
Oh, what is this?
They're the middleman.
It's her profile on
This is exactly where it's
However, it would be quite easy to fix that. It would be quite easy one.
Yeah, and the original actually had it not like this. The original was the real one where you did the transaction, you was not condemned, and you got the
where's all the information stored? Where should I expect my
Yeah, with the foundation.
with that, for example,
What that mistake would be.
But this way, it would already be better if basically the in and out middleman would be replaced with the third party. You obviously have to interact with the world. You just have to design the actions. Otherwise, there's no proof that you ever did that.
I guess it's not clear.
Well, I can tell you a product. A lot of times, something like a description be open-ended because there's more of an option. And then you can always take away. You can't add more. So like, if
you're building a profile, like I've actually looked through accounts, it's actually beneficial to the end user not to run it. But if you can say a great profile looks like this, and like in this case it's like here, looking for a great description for your profile, check this out. Yeah, exactly. But not limited. Guidance.
Because they say, because you check yes, I think, you know, the moment when you start to use it, they will want to show us the ticket that you were actually playing or not. No, I think they're fine with what you're doing. Especially when you get when you want to pay out. Just like you start at some point. If it would be difficult,
so like what would be the problem? Like what would be the problem?
The whole thing is just like your baby.
Yeah, I mean like as in what's the
it's problematic because certain like
is everybody ready to do a bit of a share back? Which group wants to go first? This group wants to go first, the fizzies. Do you guys want to come up the front?
Yeah.
Got some space.
If you guys want to contribute, I'll just start off. You talk. Alright.
Take it away, Liam.
Alright. G'day everyone. Hello, how's it going? We were looking at the D app called Fizzy. None of us had used the D app before except my friend here. But basically Fizzy is an app for like sort of like insurance on cancelled flights. A bit about I was the UX researcher, our user here, and our techie over there. I guess we'll just start off. So Fabian is an Ethereum dev, he's an entrepreneur. He's working on a blockchain project right now in the fashion and lifestyle industry. His familiarity with D-apps is a solid 8 out of 10. So he's basically the namesake of this conference. So he's pretty familiar, but like trust but verify. So I don't know, maybe.
That's why only 8.
Yeah. The D app and its objectives. So basically, the whole reason this D app exists is so people can get automatic payouts on when their flight is cancelled in terms of an insurance policy, compared to what we have right now, where it's like you have to do all these forms and stuff like that. So we went through it, and because we didn't actually want to spend money, we got to that last step, but it was pretty much the entire flow. So in terms of the experience, we started off, went to the website. I didn't know what it was, so we kind of like went through the website to start off. Watched the video, kind of skipped the video, it was too long. And then we looked at the form and we're like, okay, yeah, let's just get into it. We can, and the first thought that came up was like, okay, how does it know who I am? How does it know about my details? How do I interact? What would stop me from, for example, just, I don't know, like putting in a fake flight, and that's what we did. We actually just put in a random flight. Turns out it's a flight to Munich from Los Angeles. And yeah, so first of all, first friction was like, we don't really know what's happening. Like we don't know the whole flow of the app, and it doesn't make us confident that we know what would happen. So we started off by putting in this random flight, and we're like, cool, I guess we can just go from here. I don't even know if I need my flight ticket for this. We start going through it, and so one of the steps was like, yeah, so we're asking, okay, why does it need to know when my plane arrives? And then we're like, oh yeah, okay, so I guess it like gets his data. We don't know where it's getting the data from for the flight info. Doesn't explain it at all. We're reading through, the next step is that we're putting in our personal details. So we're like, why do we need to put in our personal details? I mean, this is a sort of, it's like a blockchain app, for one. For two, the details there are like full name, first name, last name, username. Not that we have to sign in, because they've already promised us it's automatic, but they're still asking for like a username and a password, which Fabian here pointed out, especially in this decentralized web, is like, this is just some random freaking site. And like, the security and like leakage of this information, particularly if you're going on flights, is like not really ideal. So we keep going, eventually we put this in, we make up some details. And then and then yeah, we eventually get to the point of payment, and we find out that the payment is first of all, we've been wondering the entire way through how are we going to get paid. Like you mentioned basically that the information that they put out, what they say is they say and it gets automatically funded to your bank account. And you were saying early on, because this is the first thing we read, and yet it was pretty much the last step we did. We had 4 steps in between. And the first thing we read was like automatically paid to your bank account. Each step of the way, we're like, how do they know what my bank account is? Like, and then we get to the stage where it says payment, and then it's like, it's just this form, and it doesn't even tell you what the payment methods are. It's like you click the button and you're like, and you click the button and then it's got like Maestro, MasterCard, Visa, blah, blah, blah. And we're like, okay, so it doesn't even use cryptocurrency. We're like, what? Like, what is this a DApp or is this just a, like, what is it? And so basically they still didn't answer the question. Their writing was inconsistent and it was not transparent, didn't establish user trust. That being said, Fabian still was like, well, it seems like it's pretty easy to make money here because you can just literally bet on which flights are going to be cancelled, which isn't a crazy thing. Yeah. And we from the tech perspective, so firstly I'll summarize that experience. So the curve went like this. We're like, oh yeah, this is cool. No, I don't want to enter my data. Oh, I'll fake it. And then we get to we're like, oh, and then we're like, where's the payment? And then we're like, why not Ethereum? And then we go like a little bit back up. We're like, okay, I can guess how this works. So the key element here from the 2 emotions is like uncertainty, but sort of faith because we could probably make money, right? And
So that's what the motivation wants to get
Faith of
through.
making money.
Yeah.
You guys were looking at some of the contracts.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the tech?
Yeah, we did find the contracts, but it seems there's not really that much on contracts on the Ethereum. It's basically stores that you have made this insurance or bet, and it also finally stores the flights and if you get paid out or not, but your personal details and all those kind of things are not on the Ethereum.
So basically, it stores a unique user ID attached with the flight data and the amnesty and the policy on what you paid and what you should get back. And later, somebody, which is always in this case AXA, so they're the one who put in the first part, which policy plus which user, and they would be the one who also feeds in the data, flight was delayed or not, and then the smart contract tells them needs a payout or not, and they would do then the payout. So the idea is great, but it's missing exactly the pieces of decentralized identity, doing the action on the smart contract, feeding in the money into the pot, and the one who also then automatically get paid out. Because as long as you have AXA as the gatekeeper on both ends, then they control whatever user they put in, and they can say later, oh look, that was not you, that was somebody else.
Yeah.
You have no proof because I've never signed anything with your keys, so you can never prove, hey look, it was me, because I signed this message or not. And on the reverse, the payout is not automatic. It also depends on AXA, and also the Oracle feeding in what flight data is correct or not also depends on AXA. So in this case, the database is more like a slower, bit more transparent database for that insurance system. That's okay-ish. You know, it's already better than probably a pure paper-based system. If you would actually add decentralized identity to this, which does the action, pays in the money, and also the paid money is either a stable coin or a euro token or ether or cryptocurrency directly, then that's something, you know, which can be automated, and you know, as long as you put money in, you will certainly get it out as long as the oracle is correct. So the only weak link would be then the oracle. In this case, the weak link are all three all entry. So the entry, the output, and the oracle. So basically everything.
Trustful decentralization.
It's a trustful system.
Yes.
Awesome.
A heavily trusted system.
Cool.
Thank you guys for sharing. Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, so we've tried an app called Buns. Right, I'm gonna just write here, bunz.com. So I had never heard about the app, but someone basically described me saying, look, this is the Web2 app that is now using like the Web3, and they have a great user experience because they're hiding all the Web3 part of it. And it turned out they don't have a great user experience, right? So our users, or Marcin, who has some good has some good experience with both crypto. He owns Bitcoin. He has used many apps before, which is already like puts him in the top like most experienced people category. And then we opened the app, right? And all I told him was like, it's some sort of marketplace. But when you open the app, it doesn't tell you it's a marketplace. There's a nice picture of two people like sharing something, and then his first experience is, I don't know, maybe it's like a cooking thing where you cook, and and like this login is something like declutter your life, and he's like, maybe like you cook with other people, and maybe like
they're sharing like pans.
They are sharing like a plate. What are they doing, right? And then so he has no idea what the app does. And the first thing the app asks you is like this: create a user, like log in with Facebook, log in with Google, log in with anywhere. And that's something he recognizes. Like he's, look, okay, I don't know what the app is, but I know what they're asking me. They want me to log in with my Facebook, but I'm not gonna give them my Facebook ID because they know nothing about me. So let's try to create a new account. And then like the whole process is like, why am I creating a new account, right? Why do I need this? Like they want my username. Why they need my real name for? They're giving my should I give my like a first name, my last name? Do I need to put my real name in it? They want you on a profile picture. Why? Why do they need a profile picture for me? Should I take like a selfie right now? Is there something like just to approach me? At no moment he understands what the app does. Right?
There was a button, why do we need your real name, but he didn't click.
It was like explanation that they will not display my full name. Yeah.
Exactly. There's even a point where he decides to take a picture.
I'm pretty comfortable. I'm less comfortable with taking like photo. You know?
Yeah, he even takes a picture, but then he takes a picture and then like it's showing like the back camera, which is covered by the iPad, so it's black, and he's like, why is it black? I don't know. Then like, oh, I need a selfie.
I don't often take pictures with iPhone.
And then finally it asks you, oh, we're gonna track your location. And he's like, why do you need to track my location? And it's like a fake button to track the location. He's confused. He still doesn't know. Finally he accepts to track his location. Suddenly, and that's like that's the best. All the points were negative. We even go negative on the negative scale. And then like the best moment of the user login is that they show him something cool. They show him an app. Right? Oh, I think I can see the app, and then he covers it up again. Right? Hides it and like shows you, asks, please notify notifications. And he's like frustrated because I just got a glimpse of the app, and the app sort of looks cool. And then they hide it and ask it. So I think one of the first, should I go or should I'm gonna just go and then I'm gonna talk about like the lessons learned. Then we are finally like 10 minutes after we are trying to finally figure out what the app does. And we are confused because it shows like a map of Montreal, but we are not in Montreal. Is it like the wrong location? But it shows a bunch of articles that are in sale in Montreal, and shows a bunch of shops. So are like people posting things like Craigslist, but it's showing like a bunch of shops, and the shops say things like, you have postcards, but you can't type on the postcards, and there's like, and they have prices in BTZ, which is another.
They have this like icons like small photos, like thumbnails. You tap into thumbnails and nothing happens.
And we are always like,
that was the worst part.
What is this? Like, do I go to the store? Do I need to go into the store? What is a BTZ? And then we try to figure out like, and then we try to activate the wallet. We can't activate the wallet because it doesn't recognize his Polish phone number. It's completely crazy, and we are still not sure what the app does. So
we couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. So my lessons here are the first thing is, And I think that's important for everyone. Show the value of your app, right? At no point in the login process he had understood the app. And he probably didn't need to have a login in the first place for the whole thing, because in the end we realized, oh, it's a Montreal only, it's a Canada only app, it only works in Canada. We could show you like all the lists of the products he has to offer. It could show you like real things, and maybe when you want to buy something, maybe it could log in. And it seems that they don't even show you why you need a BTC for. Like it's like an old app that has a sale of something, and they just added a cryptocurrency. And maybe they have a reason for the cryptocurrency, or maybe they just wanted to be part of the ICO craze last year. And it does seem like a weird stuff is that a lot of the explanations are explaining to the users who know what this app is, what a cryptocurrency is and what is this new cryptocurrency thing. But he's like the opposite user. He knows what a cryptocurrency is, but he doesn't know why this app exists and why does it need his own cryptocurrency. So I think you need to be like aware of those two users.
And were you able to find out, is there any data on the chain? Or?
So there's no on-chain data, so it asks for you email, full name, password.
To have this wallet. So
yeah, picture, it asks for a bunch of things. But it seems that everything is just stored on a server somehow, and it's completely centralized, and we never were able to activate our wallet, so it never wrote anything on the blockchain.
So it seems the apps have wallets in their app itself, which they wanted to be the identity of the user, and apparently he could not create it because it was linked to his phone number, and his phone number was not recognized, probably because it was outside of Canada. So no wallet, no identity, no chain data, but they stored a great amount of data somewhere else. Username, profile, password, email,
got a photo,
phone,
right? A selfie of you.
I just hope that they store these BTCs on chain, because they maybe have the tokens which are off chain. You can have tokens centralized.
Alright, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Do you guys want to go next?
That was fun.
Hello.
G'day.
I was the UXer. I'm Alex. What's your name?
I'm Ricardo.
Ricardo.
I was the tech guy.
Was the tech guy. And Yup was our user. And we tested in Zipped. I'm also going to write it on the board because we made in Zipped. So shameless self-promotion.
But great user testing of your own app.
I wonder how,
So,
how it came out.
This was the only positive right now?
No, there was good feedback. In Zipped it was something that we just made as a research exercise. We make no money on it. So in Zipped allows you to buy and sell. There's a few things that were a bit kind of confusing and specific about the way that we did our thing. It's like an authless payment gateway. So you create. It's like Imgur for selling a file. You just throw something into the browser and then give someone a link to be able to buy it. So we did both the buying and the selling part, and it's also integrated with MetaMask, which you had never used MetaMask, and it was logged into my MetaMask already. Our user was digitally savvy, had worked in enterprise sales, and now works for Parity. Had never used dApps, but had transacted cryptos and stuff like that fairly often. The objective is to buy and sell a file. So the first part, we selected the file, dragged it into the browser. That was good on our user journey. That was good. It was very intuitive. Then it was filling in metadata and describing the file that you want to sell and how much you want to sell it for. That was relatively straightforward. However, that was the first point of like, is this what's happening to this data? We don't know. One of the questions that came up was, is this searchable? Like, is this going to be published somewhere where it can be found? I don't know. And obviously that's depending on what I'm selling, whether I'm using this private file selling service to do bad stuff versus whether I want to sell my work or whatever it is. Like, that's a different consideration. So then you get a unique link, which is to buy your file, which also that was straightforward. Then so different user persona now. I'm buying a file. You go to that unique link. The first thing that you have to do is you have to sign a message using your wallet in MetaMask to make the back end start listening for your payment. And there was confusion around signing the message. What does this mean? Why am I signing a message? Then you purchase it. There was lots of just general MetaMask is awful moments where, like, first MetaMask would pop up the modal and say, "Hey, sign a message," and then it would go to the next stage where you purchase the file, but then it wouldn't pop the modal up. It would just give you the little notification that you have someone's transaction like has been created, but you haven't accepted or rejected it yet. So just general bad MetaMask UX. Then purchasing and downloading was kind of straightforward. Yeah.
So maybe for the last part, I'm not from the team that made zip, so I'm here to give like a neutral opinion. But he was right about the general UX. Well, I'm generally familiar with crypto. I've never used dApps before, but I understand the concept. And regarding the information that is stored on the chain and off the chain, I think is like that's the value proposition of the application. So one of the insights was actually to explain a little bit better that this information is not searchable because it's using IPFS and all that stuff. And maybe in the app itself, because I knew all that when I went to the FAQ and actually read the whole thing.
Yeah.
And
that
it's
was a separate page.
It's
like
a separate
you have to
page.
go somewhere else to get that information.
So that I think part of the value proposition of the app is actually that is on the chain, or which information is on the chain and which information is off the chain. So the data fields that we collected are the file metadata, the file itself, the wallet address, and the cost. And each one of them, well, the file metadata, I assume is on the chain. The file itself is off the chain because it uses IPFS. The wallet address, I'm not sure, and the cost is, I'm not sure, because in a way they don't like tell you what they're doing with this information, so they could very much just also save it in their centralized servers. So, yeah.
So I thought it would also be a good exercise to explain what we actually did with this. So the file metadata isn't on the blockchain. It's stored on IPFS and it's encrypted. And so context for Inzipped, all it is an application that arbitrates a payment and releases a file. And so you upload a file and it creates a metadata explaining what it is. Those two things are encrypted and separately stored on IPFS. You get a unique link which has the decryption key in the URL, so that is when you send that unique link to someone, you're sharing the decryption key with them from the outset, and we never get to see the decryption key. So the file metadata is on IPFS, and we're serving that to you as soon as you open up a buy link, and then you're decrypting it with the key that
how do you send how you share this URL?
Just Facebook Messenger, whatever you want.
What? But then everybody can decrypt the Facebook Messenger, which is Facebook.
Yeah, but they would have to pay us for us to show them.
Why not encrypting it with the public key of the receiver?
But then we have to hold the unencrypted file.
Yeah, I know you can just have it encrypted on your side, push it, and once you actually want to deliver it, you basically pull it down, decrypt it, now re-encrypt it with the public key of the other person. Send it over.
Yeah, I mean, the answer to any, like, why isn't it engineered better is because we're lazy. And like, it was basically, it exists because we were like, what can we make with IPFS? Because we've never made anything with IPFS before. So yeah, there's a load of other ways we can push it further and make it better. Yeah, so the file metadata is just stored on IPFS. We know where that, like, our server knows where that metadata is. You decrypt that with your decryption key. The file is also on IPFS. Our server knows where that file is, knows the hash of that file on IPFS. and then once you make a payment, we tell you where that file is, and then you download it and use the decryption key to decrypt it. The wallet address, not stored on the blockchain. That's just stored that's just stored in our server, and the cost is also just stored in our server. So we know how much, we know who you need to make a payment to for us to release the file, how much it costs, and where the files are on IPFS, and the rest is stored in the metadata, or is the file. So yeah, the insights were that it would be good if there was some kind of breadcrumbs to explain, because this is a multi-step process that you go through a carousel, and not knowing how many steps in I am is not great. Signing a message was confusing, so it would be good if you're explaining that you need to sign a message so that we can start listening for the payment. So like it could say begin instead of sign message, or like start, prepare to download a file. Also, MetaMask sucks. It was an insight. In general, yeah. The already mentioned, is the metadata that I'm using to describe this file, is that searchable or discoverable in any way? That was not explained, and also. Is this transaction, is any of this stuff kind of cached? Like, should I be encouraged to clear my cache or clear my cookies or something after this has taken place?
I think like a very big learning is, when we're talking about UX, especially with such a heavy technical basis, right? I mean, many of these steps are there for a reason, not to make it especially complicated, just because they are now necessary in order to ensure safety or whatever. I think what makes sense is, if, for example, here in this app we had basically different boxes, and the first one, like, pick your flights, second was fill in your personal data, third one was make the payment. And that's pretty easy, it's like everything is contained in the little box, you go along. What probably would help is like adding little help icons, so that people who do know it don't care and the interface doesn't get cluttered, but the people who do want to know the details or why is that there, they are able to read without moving to another fuck you page. And like,
This is integrated in the Web3 design system that we are building. We'll talk later about that.
Common patterns and challenges, so we'll definitely share with you guys some stuff specific to this topic, as well as there's a whole bunch of Beltran knows all of these kind of patterns.
So if I can hijack just to announce before everybody leaves, at DevCon we have like 3 or 4 activities like this. We have a UX audits. Designers are volunteering time to audit your DApp and learn on the way. So do sign up your DApp, and if you are designers and want to give your time, please come and do some of the audits. We have UX awards, so also submit your DApp for the awards. And we have a bunch of other activities like onboarding breakout, where we are going to talk about all these things, the solutions, the language, the way, the approaches. And another, we are having also a panel on the Web3 design systems that are aiming at solving exactly these kind of tiny problems, like, hey, can we give contextual help, for example? And components that every DApp can use inside of their own DApp that give the same consistent UX experience across all of the dApps, but they can be stylized and branded to whatever you want. So we're going to talk about a bunch of these things, and Alex also has a breakout on gas abstraction, which also helps onboarding. But and you have also a mechanism design and onboarding stuff. So if you're at DevCon.
So and your project is the flight plan.
No. They said the flight plan is done.
I think there's one component as well.
Pardon me?
What is your components?
The Web3 design system, we proposed it by ourselves.
Alright, so
we can have a chat if you want.
Thank you. So thank you guys. If you're one, give them a round of applause. Do you guys want to?
You have one.
Yeah, we've got a few.
We got time.
Yeah, we've got time. We've got plenty of time.
Do we?
But it would be nice, like in FAQ, probably if you want to.
Yeah,
I want to ask you later. What do you think of like front end design?
What we are doing to work on.
Yeah.
Simplify that.
Let's talk after.
Alright, we got these guys are going to talk about. You guys use Kenwork.
Yeah, we use Kenwork.
Alright.
I'm Matt. So we had a tech newbie, or his name was Neo, and he was kind of used to using tech.
Sorry guys.
Yeah, can we let them talk?
You can contact us shortly out.
Yeah, like now?
Yeah.
Alright guys, so I'm Matt, and we were using Kenwork, and Kenwork is a platform where you can go find freelancers who are doing like whatever, whether it's design, tech, and just kind of find them and connect with them and use crypto to pay them and stuff like that. So our user was called Neo. He was a little new to tech, and he was used to buying stuff with crypto, but still kind of knew the dApp area. He's used to installing wallets and had a wallet installed. He had MetaMask installed when going through it, but he wasn't familiar with the networks and how kind of everything works in between there. His objective was to find a designer and hire that designer, and that was that. So we kind of got started into the whole thing and looked around. The first experience was great. As we looked into the site, we could find people kind of relatively easily, but it wasn't sure. The meta information in the search was kind of disparate between like you think you'd be looking for a designer, but they would be tagged as something else. So the search terms that you're actually searching on weren't really matching up with the data we were looking for. So once you found somebody and you actually went to sign up and hire them, it asked you to, enter your Facebook, Google, or GitHub. Didn't really give an option for just an email or password. So you kind of had to connect a network to that, which wasn't great. And the question was why? Like, why do I have to go and create a profile right away? It didn't really tell me why. And once you signed in, it asked you to fill out a whole bunch of information about your location, your name, and I wasn't sure, and like bio and description about yourself. And it didn't really say why. Like the goal of me as a user was to go find somebody, and my goal wasn't to create a profile for myself. It wasn't saying, hey, go tell the people you're looking for about yourself and why they should hire you, why they should work with you. It was asking them for information from me for no real reason, and I wasn't really sure as we looked through it where that data was going. Was it going into a profile that was going to be stored on a blockchain somewhere, or what the purpose of that was? And it also asked for our Ethereum address without saying why or how they're going to use it or where they're going to store it. And I was already connected to a wallet, so my Ethereum address was there. Why couldn't they just use that address? It was already connected to the browser. There's no reason for me to go copy it, and they're just kind of validating it for some reason. So it was really questionable to like how that data was going to be used. So we filled some of that in, and again, completed the profile. After completing the profile, it took us back to the homepage. Didn't really tell us again where we were in the process of finding somebody. It kind of just dropped us off and said, "Hey,
what happened?
What happened? Where are you?" Like,
just back to the home.
Yeah, I finished my profile. I'm looking for somebody still, but I kind of lost track of where I am in the process. It just set me back to square one almost as a logged in person. And then once I had all that information, we said, we started looking at other people's profiles, and it had, US dollars associated with those profiles sometimes. Didn't have crypto, didn't have Ethereum, or I didn't understand how that person was going to pay. How could I pay them? What's their minimum payment? Why did they need my Ethereum address if I'm going to pay them in US dollars? Where is the actual crypto part of this app on here? So that was missing.
We come to the assumption that crypto was supposed to be used by recruiters to kind of deposit into a kind of escrow, but that's all an assumption. I mean, there's no place clearly explaining how this is used, and the inconsistency of why are you asking me an Ethereum address, which you could actually get yourself, by the way. Why do you make me copy it, and why this field is not mandatory? I mean, it doesn't have the asterisk. However, if I don't copy it, you don't let me continue. I mean, why this? Another other strange things like the feedback on the mandatory fields, in which the error color was the blue instead of the red, and an optional field like the Ethereum address, which was not indeed optional, was red even if it wasn't supposed to be obligatory.
you say that error color was blue?
Yeah. Sometimes it'll be blue, sometimes it'll be red.
If you filled the first name,
That's really
if you filled the first name with just one character, for example, one character alone, it did let you continue the button. However, you saw the focus color just in blue.
Okay.
But
it's like it pre-filled the first and last name fields with a character just to like help you get through it for some reason.
Right. Then we're curious about what relationship was there with the blockchain. I mean, if well, given the assumption that okay, let's assume that blockchain is Ethereum is going to be used to deposit some money, and then when the work is validated, the money is locked to the worker. Then I have been looking at the network requests, and basically we have seen API requests to Firebase, to Firestore. So basically everything is centralized on an API. What's the real point on using blockchain? No idea.
Yeah, so it really just asked for information and was not really explicit on like how I was gonna use that data, or like if I'm gonna deposit crypto later, is it gonna be used for a down payment for something? It didn't even explain any of that process at all. So we're lost.
Oh, thanks guys. Cool.
That's it.
Thank you. Cool. We're definitely out of time for doing the sharebacks, but I definitely want to see what you guys have come up with. Some really interesting insights, and there's lots of patterns out there around kind of how we can move forward. And I just want to share a few of the insights from the kind of global Web3 UX community that have been looking at some of these challenges. And the first one is from this guy over here, Beltran. So this is around providing transparency of data provenance. So actually clarifying which data comes from, I'll do like this, like I'm presenting the stuff, which data comes from the blockchain and which doesn't. So you can see in this kind of panel here, you can kind of pick and choose like maybe the color and you know the visibility, and actually click through to say Blockchain Explorer or actually view the contract, and actually really link all of the data and the contract code really easily in the front end and UX, so that users, if they do want to go and see, like you guys have been today, you know, they're able to actually really easily go and check there. So that's kind of one of the patterns. Another one that came up a bit as you know, insights was giving users control. So this is from Candela. So users should be alerted in advance if an action they're about to take in the dApp will be on the blockchain, so traceable or permanent. So who's used PETH before? Oh, just a few. Yeah, anyway, that's a really good one to check out. It's got really good patterns in there. So you can see in this example, just privacy, so your account info and peeps are public forever. So, you know, you actually warned about that ahead of time before you start clicking through and go deeper into the journey there. So that's another really good pattern. And then we didn't really touch on this topic a lot, but I think this is also really important, especially for those who, you know, have been using crypto a while, but privacy by design from Alejandro, which is, you know, this idea of avoiding signups from used addresses because users' transaction history across dApps shouldn't be public. So that every time you're actually transacting with a dApp, it's not tied, say like some of the ones that are integrated with MetaMask, you're still using the same public address or public key every time, right? So you're really starting to build up a transaction history behind the scenes of actually what you're doing. Now, each of these dApps are doing something different, and that reveals certain things about who you are. So, you know, there's this movement towards actually creating a fresh address every single time.
But the user would probably create fresh address and then transfer some funds from his previous address, and this creates the links between of them. Because
but you have to think also in a future where you have maybe thousands of dApps and maybe hundreds of accounts. It is friendly that the dApp gives you the transaction history somehow, but for your convenience in the dApp itself.
So in this one, there's a kind of screenshot of detected that, okay, this address
Because
has
this
already
is
had
like
transactions
false
on it.
security, false privacy. That it should tell you that even if you use new account and then link it with your previous account, it's the same.
Yeah,
It's the same, and people don't think, okay, I create a blank new account.
Unless you've used Shapeshift or something like that.
Yeah,
Shapeshift.
And Alejandro is in the Web3 group as well, so he's designing the system as well. So.
And so all of these things are around how do we create and surface more of that, those implications that we know up into that user experience, right? And do it in a way that people don't have to be reading, long documents or kind of having to kind of absorb a lot of this information as they're just trying to do, we're kind of trying to remove barriers as well for people using dApps. And I think some of the other things, so there's some of the patterns kind of already, but if we kind of look out to the future, in terms of awareness, I think in the future it's going to be a lot easier for people to actually see all of this data that's actually on blockchain at the moment in the future. So I think users will start to become more aware of these implications, as well as, for people who saw some of the stuff from, say, Ocean Protocol, we're really starting to shift towards kind of new paradigms around how we think of data in terms of consent, management, and even monetization of data. And I think maybe linked to that, and we saw that in the Civic app when Nas was using it, some of your data actually being stored locally, say on your phone or personal devices, and how you use that. So there's definitely going to be some things we're going to need to unpack in the future around how this looks. So key takeaways: users are concerned, about their data, and it impacts how they feel about Web3. So we need to build trust and transparency into how dApps treat data, and also really respect users' concerns and design those into experiences, especially balancing this want for privacy with the need to make kind of a seamless onboarding experience so that it's easier for people. So thank you very much. If you want to catch up with us, we're going to be at the DevCon talking about mechanism design meets UX. So that's going to be an active workshop. That's on day 1 of the conference. Also, we're at the hackerspace at Design Node 4. So tomorrow we're going to be running through our platform flight plan and also showing some use cases that are in terms of dApps. One of the things that we're trying to do is take all of these good patterns and actually build them into the front end and apps so that it's easier for people to kind of focus on their concept. But thank you everybody for today.
Thank you.